Conquering a territory as massive and wealthy as the Indian subcontinent typically suggests a requirement for endless lines of infantry and massive naval armadas. Traditional warfare, like the campaigns against Tipu Sultan shown here, was dangerous, chaotic, and incredibly expensive. The East India Company realized they could minimize these battlefield risks. They built one of history's largest empires on the cheap by relying on the pen instead of the sword. They established a system of invisible chains, a series of treaties, legal loopholes, and diplomatic traps designed to subjugate a nation from the inside out. A foreign trading corporation used these mundane administrative tools to systematically strip away the sovereign rights of a thriving civilization. In 1798, Governor-General Lord Wellesley deployed a highly effective weapon of expansion, the subsidiary alliance. It was presented to Indian rulers as a standard contract for mutual defense. The bait was simple. The company offered to station troops inside an Indian kingdom to protect the ruler from rivals. Then came the switch. In exchange, the ruler paid massive financial subsidies to host them and surrendered their right to make independent foreign alliances. Wealthy states like Hyderabad and Awadh signed these treaties and walked directly into the East India Company's financial trap. A king who controls neither his military nor his diplomacy is no longer independent. The subsidiary alliance effectively forced Indian rulers to fund their own subjugation. To enforce these alliances, the British placed a political officer known as a resident directly into the courts of the Indian rulers. These residents were officially there to advise, but they quickly became shadow rulers. They took control of major policy decisions and stripped the nominal kings of their governing power. Under the resident system, the British employed divide-and-rule tactics, exploiting regional and religious rivalries to keep neighboring kingdoms hostile toward one another. By isolating these kingdoms and dictating their internal policies, the residents ensured the subcontinent remained fractured and incapable of forming a unified resistance. When Lord Dalhousie took over as Governor-General, he moved away from Wellesley's indirect puppet mastery and toward aggressive, direct annexation. His primary legal tool was a policy called the Doctrine of Lapse. Dalhousie targeted the line of succession. If a ruler died without a biological male heir, the British rejected centuries-old Hindu traditions of adoption and immediately seized the territory for the company. This policy targeted centuries-old royal families. States like Satara, Nagpur, and the Kingdom of Tansi lost their titles and their ancestral lands as soon as the company signed a decree. The Doctrine of Lapse removed the illusion of an alliance. It proved that the British legal system was designed specifically to dismantle ancient dynasties and consume their wealth. Maps of India between 1805 and 1856 show the scope of this administrative takeover. Notice the rapid spread of British territory here, land absorbed through subsidiary alliances and the Doctrine of Lapse. Consider the math of this trap. If a kingdom brings in 150,000 rupees in revenue, but their forced British protection subsidy costs 100,000, the state is effectively bankrupt from day one. This was the creation of a permanent debt trap. It proved that a nation can be controlled through financial obligations and unequal treaties just as effectively as it can through military occupation. This system placed unbearable pressure on Indian society, creating a landscape of bankrupt princes, overtaxed peasants, and displaced, frustrated soldiers. The quiet conquest of the pen eventually reached its limit. This level of exploitation inevitably exploded into the violent Great Rebellion of 1857. The invisible chains of bureaucracy allowed the East India Company to build an empire on the cheap, but the resulting devastation forced the British Crown to step in and take direct control, changing India's history forever.